cover-up in American history as more troubling information emerges about former President Joe Biden's mental decline. Now, according to a brand new bombshell book, the one insider made it clear that there were, count them, 5 people running the country, and Biden was not one of them. So the question is obvious: who was running the show? Well, according to one cabinet secretary, it was Biden's aides who held all the power. Now that book's co-author is actually calling out the undemocratic Biden White House.
These aides were not even Senate confirmed aides. These are White House aides. These were unelected people. And one of the things that really I think comes out in our reporting here is that
they showed that the countries are all the Democrats. That means that all of them should be fired.
Threat to democracy. You can rationalize anything, including sometimes doing undemocratic things, which I think is what this person is talking about.
Heard a lot of that in my conversations with Lindy Lee. Meantime, Congress is also investigating that cover-up. The Senate, in fact, wants
I do not give a fuck. Every last Democrat that was part of the cover-up needs to be fucking fired immediately and then check their bank account. Because if you follow the fucking money trail, I guarantee you'll see a trail of crumbs lead to their bank account, to the motherfucking money that's missing out of our account, the taxpayers' account.
And whether or not Joe Biden authorized it, I think this could lead to a lot of those executive orders being kicked out in court. James Comer speaking there with Jesse Waters. Meantime, House Republicans are also demanding to hear from Biden's doctor and 4 other White House officials in an effort to uncover the truth.
You could never trust a Democrat after this. You would have to be a fucking asshole to trust a fucking Democrat after realizing that you're a rat if you're a Democrat.
In the wake of these House investigations into the Biden cover-up and the AutoPen use.
Well, I don't know if there's an easy answer. I mean, we'll see. I think Chairman Comer will probably lead this investigation. We can look at the folks who were supposedly making the decision. One thing we know for sure, it wasn't Joe Biden. So we can talk to these folks. My guess is they'll try to assert some privilege if, in fact, we ever bring them in. But I think it's right that in your lead there, you talk about it's supposed to be people who put their name on the ballot, who are elected by
you dirty, stinking rat, you.
It's not supposed to be other folks who aren't elected.
Education purposes only.
Confirmed by the United States Senate. So we'll dig into this. But I think the real culprit, of course, is the media. You mentioned that, but I mean, Jake Tapper made money telling us everything was fine. Now he's making more money writing a book telling us no, it wasn't fine. I think that's the real concern here is what the mainstream media got away with or what they thought they were getting away with. The good news is the American people figured it out on November 5th and made sure President Trump was our next president.
They sure did. Congressman, I want to stick on the topic of Biden's AutoPen use. You know, specifically, we're hearing that he used the AutoPen to sign executive orders, right? Issuing pardons. Senator Roger Marshall last night told us that could be a huge problem.
They didn't think we understood. They didn't think we knew what was going on, but we did. And I'm especially concerned about the people that he pardoned. And he was pardoning these folks, even though they had.
You got your good scientists and you got your bad scientists.
Congressman, on that note,
I don't really know which one these people are, but this is.
Are those void and valid?
Here's some nice science.
To demonstrate is that the folks who actually signed him or whoever did, or whether it was the AutoPen or what, that somehow Joe Biden didn't really give it the okay. Now, I think if you get him in, they'll probably say, well, my boss told me it was fine, or we heard that the president said it was fine. We got okay from whoever we worked for there in the White House. I assume they'll do some kind of rationale, some kind of answer like that.
But I don't give a fuck who gives any type of answer. All the Democrats that knew that Joe Biden was incompetent needs to be fucking fired. They hide it.
That's all part of it. We'll just have to see. But as I said, I think
hid exactly how competent Joe was from the people. They lied to us. 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 The people who we pay salary lied to us.
If you're struggling with knee pain, you might be making it worse without realizing it. Number 1, relying on compression sleeves. Sure, they offer support, but they don't fix the real problem, cartilage breakdown and inflammation. Number 2, resting too much.
But tonight, we begin with a story that will not and should not go away.
No will.
For
ever.
history.
Ever. Ever.
Democrats,
Ever.
their friends, and the
Ever.
same legacy media mob,
Ever.
they worked in unison to cover up
Yep.
Joe Biden's
Yep.
obvious cognitive decline. This
Come
was
on
a
now.
brazen attempt,
Come on now.
frankly, conspiracy to use a phrase,
Come on now.
to deceive all of you, to deceive the American people. They hated Donald Trump so much that they were more than willing to put Americans at risk, handing over the keys to our country and our nuclear arsenal to someone that they knew was in a steep cognitive decline. Nearly every elected Democrat, every White House official, every Biden family member, every single so-called journalist, they lied over and over and over and over again.
You would have to be an asshole to trust any of these assholes ever again.
Hey, the IAA is really getting their money's worth from us. We saved their agents and got most of Avon's weapons off the board. Now, they want us to take down his short-range missile launchers before he does something really stupid, like fire him. Okay, we still haven't found where he's hiding with Clifford, but it'll get us one step closer to taking him down. You know, if we pull all this off, take down Avon and Clifford, we won't have to rob the Union Depository. They'll give us a key. Come into planning with your crew when you're ready, and let's get it done.
Reading the Washington Post. Stop
Well, the breakdown of society is inevitable, friend. You'll be ready.
On this show, on Fox News, talk radio, maybe podcasters that you like, know, and trust. You might not always agree with my political beliefs, but we're not going to spend 5 years lying to your face. We told you the truth about Russia collusion. They lied. We told you the truth about the evaluation of Mar-a-Lago. They lied. We told you the truth about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They lied. Don't take my word for it. Let's take a look at the timeline, shall we? Let us begin in 2019, the very beginning of Joe Biden's campaign. When the third law that he was having to make something seemed off. I think I took that for the result.
These $60 traditional Japanese-inspired smart gadgets are taking the world by storm. The couple items before bed so wake up feeling refreshed and clear as you peel off decades of built-up chemicals and toxins.
You agree with me? Joe, it's free. Oh, it's free. It's free. Oh, we choose truth. Oh, stop doing keeps it just as bright, just as powerful. It's trying to recognize that truth and progress. Make sure you have the record player. Make sure the kids here learn.
This was not the Vice President Biden that we were all familiar with. It was clear, it was obvious, it was self-evident. Joe didn't talk the same, he didn't walk the same, he didn't look the same. Way back in August of 2019, it was obvious to me that Joe Biden was in a decline, and that's exactly what we reported right here on this show. Take a look. While his allies are trying to downplay it, there is a panic. All Joe being Joe, the verbal mishaps are piling up by the second, raising serious questions among Democrats about his viability. Well, let's just put it this way. I would argue that David Axelrod is right. That's probably the best you're going to get out of sleepy, creepy Uncle Joe. He's losing his fastball. I am in a little better shape. Anyway, unfortunately, anyone who dared to speak the truth was excoriated by the left-wing legacy media mob. Take a look.
When he was on the stage, the decision he made in the moment was an unsubtle allusion to Alzheimer's or ageism.
Yep.
Now, if he thinks that's winning, good luck. And if he thinks that the notion that, again, people have talked about Joe Biden's weaknesses as a candidate. If you actually think he's weak, then he'll fall on his own sort of time.
Now, a year later, let's follow the timeline. In 2020, the same pattern continued. Now, if you are a loyal viewer to this program for any length of time, you are very, very familiar with this alarming moment from then candidate Joe Biden. Created by the thing, God, the creator of everything. Take a look.
It's time for America to get back up on its feet and once again fight this proposition that we hold these truths to be self-evident. Sounds corny. Right, Joe? Think about it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All the men and women created by you know the thing. You know how we talk about it. Are we the people?
Corny, not a joke. Think about it. The thing.
Once again, we observed the truth. And immediately, we told you, our viewers, for a reminder. As a voter, it is fair for every American to ask whether or not this 70-year-old has the strength, the stamina, the focus, and the capacity to handle what is by far the toughest job in the world. Now, the meat quid pro quo Joe seems to be in a rapid state of decline and not up to the rigors needed even on a campaign.
I gotta go watch porn.
Now, over there on fake news CNN, the reporting was much different. Instead of telling you that the people that watch, very few people that watch that network, well, they spread blatant lies, propaganda, misinformation. Take a look.
This is Joe Biden out there on a vigorous bike ride. Not wearing a helmet, but definitely wearing a mask, by the way. Fox's narrative and talk radio's narrative for months has been that Joe Biden is falling apart. You just heard Mr. say, falling apart. There he is riding a bike, out for a bike ride.
That's why he should be fired. 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 He should be fired. He should be fired.
Journalists, as they claim, they are
liars. They're liars. They're liars. Why you don't want to say the truth? They're liars. They're liars. They are liars. Why nobody don't want to say what it really is? They are liars. Why don't nobody want to say what it is being what it is? They are liars.
Joe barely ever did unscripted press. Let me go to.
They are liars.
Who's going to ask me about the budget? I mean, that's how.
Sorry, they are liars. They are liars.
Could barely even drag his beach chair around. But according to MSDNC, confidence was at the helm. Take a look.
Tell it like it is. They are liars.
People in the country. That government is actually working.
Stop playing around it. They are liars. Tell it like it is. Fake news are liars giving you fake news.
It continued. Take a look at your screen.
Tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. They are liars.
Look at this case. Get his jacket on without help from Dr. Joe. But again, anyone who reported the truth, we were viciously attacked. We were accused of ageism. Take a look.
What about the respect for elders thing that we talk about? Because we treat, I think, our elderly people we don't support them and honor them as much as other countries. Is there? And it's a little
news. It's just liars.
These issues, and to speak of a president.
We talk a lot about fake news. There's no fake news. There's only liars. There are nothing but a bunch of fucking liars. All of them on TV dealing with our government, dealing with the Democrat rats and some of the Republican clowns. There are liars. There are a lot of liars.
Now, just walk off the set. The legacy media mob still lied to your face. In fact, CNN continued to blame Biden's lifelong stutter. Nobody ever talked about his stutter or his unusual behavior. Take a look.
Of the Democrat clowns.
He does somewhat. I don't know if that's his stutter or if that's the prompter. I mean, he does, and as you know, his critics seize on that.
Republican clowns.
And this brings us to 2024. Biden's last year as your so-called president. Was he really? Anyways, most of you know Joe.
If not all, most of them are liars. They all are liars.
Let's call a lid at 8 o'clock in the morning, meaning you won't see the president for the rest of the day. He wandered off, remember, during the G7 meeting in France, while other world leaders anxiously looked on. Come on, Joe, let me steer you back to where you belong. He also seemed completely lost during a Juneteenth concert, looking off into the distance with a 1,000-yard stare of his. At one point in 2024, he even walked straight into a jungle.
Joe Biden had to have the Easter Bunny bring him back to reality.
We showed you all of this very real footage. Remember, he would shake air. He didn't know whether to go exit left or exit right. He had no idea. Somebody had to, oh, come on, Joe, we'll walk you off the stage. But we would show you this footage day in and day out, night in, night out, while the other media outlets accused us of producing what they call cheap fake videos. Take a look.
We're
hearing about so-called cheap fakes. It's playing out on right-wing media, Fox, New York Post, and so on. And
All news except for Fox News tells lies.
President Biden on social media.
Tell lies.
Which ones are deceptively edited, now being called
Sometimes Fox News tell lies too.
memes, and what the White House is calling cheap fakes.
But all the rest of the news is straight up fucking fake. Any news that don't tell you nothing good about Donald Trump is straight up fake fucking news. And all fake fucking news stations, I don't want my tax money going to these assholes. Not one fucking penny. We need to find out how much of our tax money is going to any of these fake news stations.
proclaiming Joe Biden was his best self intellectually, analytically. What planet is he living on? Take a look.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle
You heard my FU.
this version of Biden.
Your ass should be fired. Your ass should be fired. You fucking liar. You should be fired. You fucking liar.
I wouldn't say it.
Hey, Joe, I could use your words. F you for lying. Lying to the American people. Even after Biden's disastrous debate performance in 2024, there was still some on fake news CNN making excuses for Joe until he was officially out of the presidential race. Take a look.
In several events since the CNN debate, President Biden has appeared vigorous. He has had a really busy, jam-packed schedule where you haven't seen what we all saw on the debate stage.
He never had a jam-packed schedule. My big question is tonight, if Democrats, their friends in the state-run legacy media mob are willing to lie so blatantly about all of this, what won't they lie about?
Come on, huh?
As it turns out, their rampant dishonesty extends to almost everything. I
Everything.
don't have time to list every lie. They have done nothing but lie and lie.
You couldn't trust the media to save your fucking life. This whole fucking thing is based on big lies.
Surprises for lying, and they won't give them back. It's repulsive. It is corrupt. It is the biggest presidential scandal in history. Well, right up there. Here's one quick example.
Smell
This
that?
fake Jake Tapper defending
FIB
Hunter Biden in
shitting their pants
2019,
again.
20, and 23. Now he's criticizing. Take a look.
Whatever you think of Hunter Biden, and there's certainly a lot of people in this town, Democrats and Republicans, that do not think a lot of him, there is a certain kind of like cruelty to the campaign against him. Where is Hunter? Where is Hunter? Where is Hunter? The right wing is going crazy with all sorts of allegations about Biden and his family, too disgusting to even repeat here. I mean, some of the ones I've seen from the president's son and some of the president's supporters are just wildly unhinged. I think that you came here and leveled a bunch of accusations and allegations about Hunter Biden.
I didn't level. I just said the facts.
Now, and that's one thing about the facts. Nobody want to hear the facts. Everybody want to hear the story. Nobody want to hear the facts. They just want to hear the story.
Now, that was before Biden's exit from public life. Now here's fake Jake admitting the truth. Trying to make money.
Your
selling
resting
the book.
face.
Take a look.
I think Hunter was driving the decision making for the family in a way that people. He was almost like a chief of
And got his leg crossed like he really doing something right now. When really he fucking us worse than he fucked us when he didn't tell us the truth. Now he telling us the truth like he been know the truth, but he didn't know the truth then. These assholes really think we assholes. But all believers are assholes. Sorry, you children are assholes by default. Your fucking parents' fault for teaching y'all this shit.
I don't have a lot of personal regard for him.
And I have no personal regard for you either, fake Jake. You're trying to make money, criticizing the very lying that you were a huge part of. Why would anyone buy that book or trust anyone at fake news CNN ever?
Man, why would y'all believe shit when every time you look around what y'all believe in kick y'all in your ass? Because you should have fucking known better. God dog it.
firsthand.
Don't tell
Then
Pavel.
Biden White
I threw out
House
the
at
caviar
that
he left
time
for us.
was a
It was
house of
37
cards
years
built
past
on
its sell
lies
by.
and
I don't know
smears.
how he's
He's
alive.
the only one I recall calling it out regularly. Take a look.
President Biden is the oldest president in U.S. history. Why does White House staff treat him like a baby?
You know what treats the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, like a baby?
So there's this book that says
That's ridiculous.
when staff wants back, was House President Biden ever going to convince the 3/4 of voters who are worried about his physical and mental health that he is okay, even though in Las Vegas he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996?
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you, sir.
One of the reasons you were not charged is because in his description you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I'm president, I put this country back on its feet.
Bitch, you fucked the country up, bitch, with that open border bullshit. That's what the fuck you talking about.
My memory is so bad I let you speak.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to
Man, Sean Hannity, I'm sorry, I don't want to click the shit with you shit.
Their sex tape is
I'm already pissed off because we stupid to y'all shit. Y'all stupid ass shit. And we shouldn't have to be going through this shit with y'all. This don't make no fucking sense for us to have to go through this shit with y'all at all.
Preparing to blow the lid off the biggest political cover-up in American history as more troubling information emerges about former President Joe Biden's mental decline. Now, according to a brand new bombshell book, the one insider made it clear that there were, count them, 5 people running the country, and Biden was not one of them. So the question is obvious, who was running the show? Well, according to one cabinet secretary, it was Biden's aides who held all the power. Now that book's co-author is actually calling out the undemocratic Biden White House.
These aides were not even Senate confirmed aides. These are White House aides. These were unelected people. And one of the things that really I think comes out in our reporting here is that if you believe, and I think a lot of these people do sincerely believe that Donald Trump was and is an existential threat to democracy, you can rationalize anything, including sometimes doing undemocratic things, which I think is what this person is talking about.
Heard a lot of that in my conversations with Lindy Lee. Meantime, Congress is also investigating that cover-up. The Senate, in fact, wants to talk with 28 top-level Biden officials, while the House is said to be looking into unauthorized use of the auto pen by Joe Biden.
When you sign a document that has legal implications, it has to be signed personally. It can't be signed by an auto pen. So I think that if we could understand more about the auto pen and whether or not Joe Biden authorized it, I think this could lead to a lot of those executive orders being kicked out in court.
James Comer speaking there with Jesse Waters. Meantime, House Republicans are also demanding to hear from Biden's doctor and 4 other White House officials in an effort to uncover the truth. So joining us now is the Judiciary Committee Chair and Ohio Congressman, the great Jim Jordan. Congressman, listen, this is a simple question for you. What, if anything, can we expect to happen in the wake of these House investigations into the Biden cover-up and the auto pen use?
Nothing.
Well, I don't know if there's an easy answer. I mean, let's see. I think Chairman Comer will probably lead this investigation. We can look at the folks who were
Nothing is going to happen.
making the decision. One thing we know for
Nothing
sure
is going to happen.
So,
Nothing is going to
Talk to
happen.
these folks. My guess is they'll try to assert
Nothing
some
is gonna
privilege
happen.
if, in fact, we ever bring them in.
Nothing is
But
going to
you're,
happen.
I think it's right that
Nothing
your
is gonna happen.
lead there, you talk about it's supposed to be people who put their name on the ballot, who are elected by we the people who make the decisions.
Nothing is gonna
It's
happen.
supposed to be other folks who aren't
Nothing is gonna
elected, or
happen.
in this case, aren't even confirmed by the United States Senate. So we'll dig into this, but I think the real culprit, of course, is the media. And you mentioned that, but
Nothing
I mean,
gonna happen.
Jake Tapper made money telling us
Nothing gonna
everything was
happen.
fine. Now he's making more money writing the book
Nothing
telling
gonna
us no,
happen.
it wasn't fine. I
Nothing
think
gonna
that's
happen,
the
man.
real concern here is what the mainstream media got away with, or what they thought they were getting away with.
Don't tell
The good news
Pavel.
is the American
I threw
people
out the
figured it out
caviar
when
he
the
left
best
for
of
us.
them
It was
made sure
37
President Trump
years
was our
past
next
its
president.
sell-by.
Thanks, sure,
I don't know
Dave.
how he's
Congressman, I want
alive.
to stick on the topic of Biden's auto pen use. You know, specifically, we're hearing that he used the auto pen to sign executive orders, right? Issuing pardons. Senator Roger Marshall last night told us that could be a huge problem.
They didn't think we understood. They didn't think we knew what was going on, but we did. And I'm especially concerned about the people that he pardoned. And he was pardoning these folks even though they hadn't been convicted of a crime. It just doesn't add up.
That's why they should go to jail. Just because they took a pardon that they knew that wasn't legal. They knew that pardon wasn't legit.
I think what you have to demonstrate is that
Man,
the
shut
folks
up,
who
man.
actually signed him or whoever did or whether
Come
it was
on,
government or
now.
what, that somehow Joe Biden didn't
Come
really
on,
give it
now.
the okay. Now, I think if you get him in, they'll probably say, well, my boss told me it was fine, or we heard that the president said it was fine. We got okay from whoever we worked for there in the White House.
We don't need that shoo-shooing the blame to somebody else. Everybody that's on the Democrat side needs to be fired immediately. You can never trust a fucking liar.
And then at some point when they come in, will they assert some kind of privilege, executive privilege? That's all part of it. We'll just have to see.
Oh, we really stupid. If me or you was to lie, if me or you was to lie on a contract, or if you was just to lie, period, and they catch us lying, would you get hired after getting?
Honest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
You won't get hired if you're a fucking liar. That's fucked up. How fucking stuck on fucking stupid we are. We're allowing motherfucking assholes to fucking lead us straight down the fucking shit. We stupid. Sheep.
Hiding his health decline from the American people. And now, Health Oversight Chair James Comer told Jesse Waters last night that subpoenas could be flying as soon as a week from now, especially if these
Gives a fuck about subpoena.
denied to answer questions under oath.
We're going to request that 4 staff.
Request for what, man? Request for what?
FIB shitting their pants again.
We know they lied. So what you requesting for? Your subpoenas didn't work before. Your subpoenas ain't gonna work now. Dr. Fauci lied to Congress. Everybody lies in Congress. So lying to Congress ain't shit. Ain't nobody gonna go to fucking jail. Nobody will go to jail.
Would you expect to subpoena Hunter and Dr. Jill?
This brilliant device keeps your home cool in summer, even during heat
Pisses
waves.
me off when I think about this bullshit. How well these people have taught us to be fucking stupid.
Yeah, I think we're going to start with these and see where the road goes. You know what I said back during the end of the Biden administration, that our sources were telling us that Hunter Biden was spending more time in the Oval Office than Joe Biden. I said on some shows that Hunter Biden was essentially the de facto chief of staff. This is a huge problem, and I think that every American deserves answers. And we're going to bring every single person that was involved in this cover-up in front of Congress.
Oh, fuck Congress. They've been lying to Congress, man.
When do you expect these subpoenas to go out?
Man, fuck Congress, man. And y'all subpoenas, man. None of that shit means shit. These assholes, we are the assholes. We allow you assholes to constantly lie to us and we do nothing. Lie after lie. Lie after lie after lie. Y'all get caught.
Tommy Lahren is fearless on Outkick and FoxNews.com. And joining us on the couch for the very first time on this Friday, Alicia Acuna, Fox News senior correspondent.
And then y'all lie some more to get out the lie y'all just started. We are the stupid ones.
But now we know the names of people who have received the letters, and so we will name them here. Anthony Bernal, who is the top watchdog, essentially, for Joe Biden. You have Ashley Tomasini, Annie Tomasini, rather. She was the head of business operations for Deputy
Don't tell
Ashley
Pavel.
Williams.
I threw out the caveat he left for us. It is 37 years past its sell-by. I don't know how he's
There are
alive.
people who, some of whom are alleged to have cocooned the president. Nice letters and kind requests to come to Congress might work, but a prediction I have is that subpoenas will be necessary and probably in short order.
Yeah, the Republicans are just too nice. They send a letter and they wait for a response. Democrats don't operate like that. Democrats are cutthroat. If they want something, they go after it. Republicans would be smart to maybe follow that example, especially when it comes to something as important as this. I understand the investigation fatigue. I think a lot of Americans, they want to see accountability, but sometimes when you have the investigations on top of investigations, people go, all right, just move on already, fix the economy. However, this is so important because this can never be allowed to happen again. We were lied to. This was
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're probably never going to get answers to. COVID is one of them, but also the Biden decline. There has to be accountability here. And those that cocooned the president and that That's a great use of the term, by the way, because I feel like we were watching the movie Cocoon.
No.
5
No.
years for those who are
No.
familiar with that
Someone
movie,
attempted to
you know
hack
what
us
I'm
this
talking
morning.
about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, baby.
Right now, their sex tape is number 2 on Bleeder.
Go the distance. Don't walk and just prance down the road. You gotta run down the road.
You gotta run down the road. That's well said. And I love that you mentioned investigation, Steve, because that's certainly true. There are a lot of Americans who say, you know, just focus on inflation. I get that. But
I ain't one of them. I ain't one of them.
The Biden connection to policy and what happened to you, that's why it matters. Here's this anecdote that I found in this Alex Thompson book. There was an immigration meeting that took place, and I believe it was in 2022. So the administration had at one point considered cracking down on the border, apparently. They decided not to do that. No one knew what happened to the plan, who changed the plan. Well, one cabinet secretary present at that meeting, where Biden apparently had, quote, a glitch, believed that Biden's limitations had given his aides more power to steer the administration. If you had, this is a direct quote from a former cabinet member, if you had a 20 years younger Joe Biden, I think he would have been more on top of the issue of immigration and what was going on, the cabinet secretary said. Well, 11 million people got to the country. Young women lost their lives.
FIB
and we could
shitting
use
their
a
pants
20-something
again.
younger Joe Biden or someone who could do the job.
When are we going to get to the word complicity here? Because if you are a cabinet secretary, you actually had to get confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like some official that just came out of the woodworks.
Yep.
It was like the secretary of the office taking notes and answering phones. You're a cabinet secretary. And you're making the determination that perhaps that person shouldn't be in that position at that moment. Now, look, did I anticipate ever that liberals would 25th Amendment this guy? No, because they didn't want that power wrested from their hands. But I do think that if it was infecting policy, there are probably some foreign leaders, and who's traveling the world making friends more than anybody? President Trump. I bet there's some foreign leaders who have a few things to say about the condition of Joe Biden and what perhaps may have been put into play or stymied because he was deficient. And probably we could learn about a few people behind the scenes.
And put them in jail. All of them should be fired. Then people need to go to jail.
The country didn't stop. It just didn't go the way that Americans wanted, which we found out on November 5th. So
Man, people died. People lost everything, man.
we aren't using that
Fucked up decisions
when we
from the
talk about
auto
those
pen.
around him. It was more
That ain't
than
good.
5 people.
That ain't good. That ain't good at all.
Secretary, who else saw that he was deficient in
No.
ways to run the country? Not the next 4 years, but presently during the last 4.
Yeah, well, here's another name. Senator Mark Warner. He was chair of the, still is, House Select Committee on Intelligence, now obviously no longer in leadership because Republicans took over. But here's what he said. After the release of 11 from Guantanamo, he talked to President Biden. He expressed his concerns about releasing these individuals from Guantanamo, and he walked away with a brand new worry. And it wasn't about the release of these individuals. Here is his new worry. Biden seemed oblivious to concerns that Warner thought were rather obvious. The president was clearly not up to speed on this. Warner wondered how much of this was related to the president's aging issues, which
Don't tell
had
Pavel
become
I
visible
threw
to
out
all
the
who
caviar
watched.
he left
So
for
then
us.
we look
It was
at
37 years
it
past
brought
its
you
sell by.
over to
I don't know
releasing
how
people
he's
from
alive.
Guantanamo and a senator who was named in this book who had concerns.
And on this Memorial Day weekend, as we begin the Memorial Day weekend and honor those who sacrificed so much for us, just imagine being one of those generals who was advising the president on the Afghan withdrawal and realizing and recognizing, in fact, they've all said it, even ones who were very close to Biden that didn't like Trump, like Billy, like General Billy, and said publicly that the advice they gave him directly contradicted what he ended up doing, that may have put our troops at risk. And of course, 13 of our brave troops died during that withdrawal, partly because of terrible things that were going on in terms of security, in terms of leaving the Bagram Air Base before the civilians had gotten out, which is exactly the opposite of what the advice that all of those generals were giving him. And then watching, as you say, Mr. President, we think you should do this, we don't think you should do what you're planning to do. And then they see Hunter Biden walking out of the Oval Office. You know, what kind of, I mean, honestly, I wonder why and how these people were able to stay in that position, knowing what was happening. They knew that he was not only incapable, but was literally putting our troops at risk, putting their lives at risk, 13 of whom, by the way, did pass away as a result of that horrible explosion, not to mention the hundreds of Afghans. President Trump has said, you know, yes, it was a horrible thing that our troops died, but don't forget there were also hundreds of Afghans that died in that too. So, no, this was a horrible, horrible situation. It should not have happened.
Alicia, and it could have happened with just a few people knowing, you know, having worked in the West Wing and then also at the RNC and also on a presidential campaign, I can tell you this much. There's a very good chance people at the DNC didn't know what was going on. I didn't really know much what was going on in the West Wing when I was at the RNC. Same at the campaign. You could become the president with about 10 to 15 people knowing. Right? And we need to figure out who those people are and get answers from them. One was Jill Biden, who apparently after the 2-hour press conference in January 2022, when Biden walked out, she ran up to Jen Psaki in Cape Bedingfield and said, "Why did you guys stop that? Where were you?" And it just occurred to me then, you know, I just can't imagine a scenario where the First Lady Melania Trump would have run up to me after a Trump press conference and said, "Why didn't you stop him?" That is highly unusual behavior from a First Lady.
You know, it's incredibly striking, and all of the information that we've received out of this book, everything that we've learned, I just keep coming back to Jill and Hunter Biden because they were the closest to the president at the time. They knew it was at risk. They knew the situation that we were dealing with. And also, can I add Anthony Bernal, the Joe Biden senior advisor, because he wielded her name, Joe Biden, like a weapon. If he wanted to get something done that other staffers found questionable because they were watching a diminishing president at work, he would shut it down with her name. And can I just add, the day after the debate, the disastrous debate, we know that the family got together and they were trying to decide what to do. And they were doubling down. And it was described in the book that Hunter Biden was almost, quote, manic about his father staying in because it was the family against the world. No mention about the United States and America and what was best for the people who live here.
Yeah. I mean, how is it that we're finding all this out now from a bunch of folks where people's only intent is to make some money? Are we in doubt about that? Because if they wanted us to know the truth, they could have shared it contemporaneously, but now they're cashing it.
Now they're cashing in, and we learned the truth. Thanks, Russ.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno.
Fucking saying how we got played. By people that we trusted. Got played by people that we trusted. Woo! Hardcore when you think about it, boy. We paying these people to lie to us. Paying them to lie to us. None of these people can still have a job. We know that they lie, but we still allow them to work. Still allow them to make money off of us.
Don't tell Pavel.
After getting caught lying to us.
It was 37 years past its sell-by. I don't know how he's
Wow.
alive.
It just don't make no sense.
Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice, for being there to call out to your mom. How heartbreaking was that? Call out to
What
your
the
mom.
fuck, this racist bullshit they trying to spark up now?
And
This some old bullshit.
thousands,
Some
millions
old
of
bullshit.
people around the world
It's some old bullshit.
came out for
Shut your
justice.
stupid ass up.
Your name will always be synonymous with
They got them
justice.
fucking masses
And
on
now we
fuck.
have to make sure justice prevails.
Is this in real time?
Sentencing. But
Where my phone at, man? I gotta find out this real time, man.
a few years
Okay, a few years later.
The Floyd family. They don't want to be politics, but this is inherently political what the Trump administration is doing, where they are purposely rolling back the oversight on departments like the Minneapolis Police Department that even the chief at the time said needs some reform. But I also want to give you some sense of how the country is responding to this in a political way, where you have Nagaland putting out these really disturbing messages. I can tell you as a reporter who's followed this for many years, all the vitriol and racism that has been spewed at me and my colleagues when we cover this story. Here's Maura Loomer, who has the president's ear. Here is what she posted today on the anniversary of the man's death as his family.
Man, fuck all this stirring up this racist bullshit because y'all ain't got nothing to fucking run on.
This is 5 years
Oh.
that kind of disgusting vitriol when you are trying to still remember and mourn your loved one. But that is what has happened with a lot of folks in Nagaland. They see this as a rallying cry against diversity, against police. We're full on, and so these are sort of the two sides of what's happening here in this country on this very day, the day George Floyd was murdered. But,
yeah, an example of callousness.
Man ain't got nobody that bullshit.
So we gotta talk about the clown news network. Advancing themselves by essentially celebrating the anniversary of George Floyd's death on Memorial Day weekend, right? Instead of celebrating Memorial Day the way that you're supposed to celebrate it, which is to honor our fallen veterans, no, what they're doing is that they're honoring George Floyd instead, and boo-hooing Donald Trump and Trump supporters for quote-unquote racist backlash, as you guys just saw, from the fact that they are getting criticized for their coverage of George Floyd. Okay, I don't think anybody asked for this. This is not a national news story, right? I don't think we should be celebrating or remembering George Floyd 5 years later. The only thing that we should talk about when it comes to George Floyd is all of the chaos, destruction, death, the vandalism, the domestic terrorism that we've seen in this country as a result of the far left movement that decided to destroy the country on behalf of George Floyd. And the worst part about it is that Democrats are responsible for this, right? They let the chaos and destruction happen. And the business owners in that area still have not recovered from what the Democrats allowed to happen to this country and to the city of Minneapolis.
Her voice shaking, Minneapolis Police Sergeant Anna Hedberg says during the riots, officers were abandoned by state, city, and department leaders.
to watch them go through that was so heartbreaking. To know that they could have died because we were not allowed to respond the way that we have been trained to respond.
During the riots, the officers were told they could not wear protective frog suits, but were still hit and injured with bottles, cement, and more. Sergeant Hedberg blamed state, city, and department leaders for the abandonment of the 3rd Precinct.
I heard the governor say, "Give it up." It wasn't directed to me, the phone call, how the governor says, "Give up the precinct." I mean, that's demoralizing for this whole state.
And the three described a demoralized police force with dozens of officers planning to retire or quit.
I believe I speak for every Minneapolis cop when I tell you that
I don't know how he's alive.
I've never been more publicly humiliated.
The murder of George Floyd shocked not just Minnesota, nor the nation, it shocked the world. And the civil unrest that ensued from that was probably some of the greatest that we've seen both in this nation and globally. And that operation involving dozens of local, county, and then the state, involving multiple states in the region, and involving the federal government, had to be assembled, had to be coordinated, and had to make sure that we brought the order back. I'll be the first to tell you, that's terrifying for Minnesotans in those days. Nothing like this had been seen before at the level of violence after the murder of George Floyd. I think, again, there'll be stories written, and this will be written about for quite some time. I'm proud of Minnesota's response. I'm proud of Minnesota's first many of our communities. And the differentiation between the Minneapolis Police Department that we've witnessed losing trust of those that are there to serve is very difficult for people to make for those standing up here with me. I understand that. And I will not patronize you as a white man without living those lived experiences.
I lost everything, and I'm still losing everything. I can't even sleep. I'll go to bed late because they were trying to break in my shop. People were getting killed and frozen. And I could have lost my life. They didn't care about me, and they still don't care. They're downtown telling us, "Oh, you guys didn't do it. You guys, oh my God!" But yet, 444 officers got paid PTSD leave, and they started this. You guys started this. I had nothing to do with what happened here, and I'm losing everything. My business is not the same. Look at me. Look, it's a nice day, and I don't need one car in here. We're used to having 6 and 7 cars. We usually are a $30,000 a month, $40,000 a month business. I've not seen my business turn around since.
While we were standing in the middle of the George Floyd Memorial, Reed caught sight of George Floyd's aunt, Angela Harrison, and angrily confronted her about what he said was money that should have gone to local residents and business owners, but instead, he said, was taken by NGOs, nonprofit governmental organizations. The Floyd family got a $27 million settlement from the city.
Let me tell you something.
when they gave away the $50,000 that your family was handing out to the businesses to help them, you know how many people were up there that wasn't even from this area? There were 72 people up there trying to take that money from all the businesses. We didn't get a dime. None of us got a damn dime of that money to help us. Did you know that? Oh my God. Y'all didn't even know that. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
They wouldn't know that. They wouldn't know that.
We know that because I was there when it happened. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I was in the room when they all showed up, all these white folks that we've never even seen over here, asking for the money that your family was putting down for these businesses. They took that money from us. We never got a dime. We never got help.
And the people are forgetting that COVID also hurt the business.
No, COVID didn't hurt my business.
Yeah.
You're arresting
For her part, Angela Harrison says she still holds nice memories of her nephew, George Floyd.
You all know that my nephew had a very colorful lifestyle. He had challenges with sobriety. You know, he went to prison. But with all that, it didn't take the man who was inside. He tried to change his life around. He was doing the best that he can. But overall, when you strip everything, he was about humanity.
So we're going to talk about George Floyd and the so-called legacy of George Floyd. We have to make sure that we talk about the destruction and violence that we've seen as a result of what happened to him. Okay, nothing positive came out of what happened to George Floyd, and I think that is probably the most accurate way to talk about it. In my opinion, I think that what happened as a result of George Floyd is probably the worst thing to happen to this country in a long time, right? Besides COVID, I think those two things happening at the same time were terrible for this country looking back. But, you know, hey, here we are, right? With the election of President Trump in 2024, I believe that maybe, just maybe, we're getting back on the right track, right? When it comes to restoring sanity in this country. And this is why CNN is fuming, because the Trump administration is essentially pulling back on some of the reforms that were put in place as a result of George Floyd's death, and CNN can't handle it. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Are expected all weekend long to honor Floyd's life, 5 years after an officer kneeled on his neck for nearly 9 minutes, starting one of the largest protest movements in American history. Now, 5 years later, ex-officer Derek Chauvin has been convicted. He's serving a 22-year sentence in prison. And while there have been attempts at police reform just this week, the Justice Department rolled back some of those efforts. I want to bring in CNN anchor and senior national correspondent Sarah Seidner, who joins us now from Minneapolis. And Sarah, you helped lead CNN's coverage from Minneapolis after the killing of George Floyd. You're back on the scene today at George Floyd Square. What is it like?
Look, it is much more peaceful. It is much more quiet. Actually, this square, throughout the protests around the world and across Minneapolis, was mainly a place that was peaceful, where people came to remember, to commemorate, to mourn the life of George Floyd. And that's still happening to this day. And what is remarkable about this, because you, Omar, were here as well with me, and have been to many of the places where people were slain by police officers unjustly. And this is different. And part of that is because this community decided they wanted to make sure they had a living memorial. And by that, I mean, there are gardeners that come on a daily basis to make sure that the flowers and plants here survive. They make sure that this stays clean and pristine so that people can come here in a place of calm and cleanliness. But this is the area right here where you see George Floyd's face and all of those roses lined there which say Remembrance 2025. That is where Derek Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck. Police officer eventually murdering George Floyd and being convicted for that. Now, what's changed? There are several things that have changed. While this is still very much here, the streets are still...
Look at that in the background. Nothing changed. Not a damn thing has changed. You guys saw that? Right? You saw the hoodlum in the background? You saw that throwing up gang signs? Look at this guy. Right in the background. Throwing up gang signs. Not a damn thing has changed. Okay? Not a damn thing has changed. Okay? This is what you got. Right? That's what it is. Okay? Still the hood. Right? Still a bunch of ghetto nonsense going on. Nothing's changed. Little pants sagging off his ass. Right? I mean, that's what we got going on here. Okay? Not a damn thing has changed.
Cup Foods, what used to be Cup Foods, now calling itself Unity Foods. They are the ones that called police on George Floyd. And then you have this neighborhood. And the issue here for a lot of people is they feel that the reforms that they wanted have not come to fruition. And so this isn't just a day about remembering, it's just a day about feeling sorrow, but also feeling hope. It is a day about demanding change, the change they want to see. And in so doing, what they are seeing from the Trump administration is the opposite, where he is rolling back the federal oversight on police departments. Here's what one longtime resident here of Minneapolis, who's been here from the 60s, here's what he had to say upon hearing what the Trump administration is doing.
In this neighborhood, we want police reform. I want to know that my grandchildren go down the street and a child isn't going to just kill him because he's dark. Okay, my family is Creole, and I'm probably the latest registered in Hope my family. Thank you. But at the same time, I have children and nephews, nieces with dark skin and nice hair. Green nice hair. Okay? But it's not safe out here. You don't get a chicken and a bullet at the same time.
So you hear the sentiment there, and that is shared by quite a few people here. However, in talking with the mayor, the mayor is saying, look, we are still going to make those reforms. We are still working through those reforms, even though the dissent decree from the Trump administration, from the federal government, has been pulled back. They are still working towards making a better community-oriented police department.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that. Okay, you have CNN essentially out here, remembering George Floyd, rather than remembering all of the heroes that fought and died for this country, which is what Memorial Day weekend is supposed to be about, right? I mean, they've covered this, they talked about this more than they talked about what happened in Afghanistan, right? That's what they should be talking about, okay? You talk about Memorial Day weekend, if you're going to be remembering Americans, right, you should be remembering those who fought and died for this country, okay? What happened to George Floyd, again, likely, in my opinion, was drug overdose gone bad, right? That's what I think happened. And the fact that, CNN is covering this the way they're covering it, I think it's kind of shameful. Because they're ultimately trying to turn this into a Trump trash session, right? That's what they're doing. They're using George Floyd to trash Trump. Talking about, Trump is on his back on police reform, as if police reform is a real issue in this country. I mean, let's be real, right? The people who deal with police brutality the most, okay, are criminals. If you are a law-abiding citizen, there is a 99.99999% chance you're not going to deal with police brutality, right? Like, it's just not going to affect you if you are a law-abiding citizen. And if you are a criminal, okay, you frequently have interactions with police that are negative, then police reform is probably a big issue for you, right? Because you want the police to be soft, right? You don't want the police to rough you up. So I get that. But, when you're not a criminal, I just don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
Brutality.
The change that we want to see has not come unless there's all acknowledged progress on the issue of equity and basic human and civil rights. That's a nothing proposition.
Now, new complications. Earlier this week, the Department of Justice halted its oversight of police reform in several cities, including Minneapolis.
Minneapolis is serious about our commitment to police reform, even if the President of the United States is not.
Derek Chauvin, the officer responsible for George Floyd's death, is currently serving 2 concurrent 20-plus year sentences. A state jury convicted him of murder. He pleaded guilty to federal civil rights violations, netting him more than 2 decades in prison. Some conservatives are calling for a federal pardon.
Well, I think the reason that I'm advocating for pardon is because Derek Chauvin is not guilty.
President Trump has not indicated he would pardon Chauvin. If it happened, Chauvin would remain in prison on state charges. Still, the idea frustrated Floyd's family as they struggle to move on.
We need people to hold police accountable. That's the bottom line.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez, reporting.
Today marks 5 years since the murder of George Floyd set off a movement nationwide. But what has changed? Joining me now, Atlanta Journal-Constitution's race and culture reporter Ernie Suggs and Jason Lee, senior editor of VASA. Gentlemen, welcome back. So let's start here. I remember that video, and I'm sure many of us remember that video of Floyd's daughter, Gianna, saying, my daddy changed the world. And he did for a period.
Yeah, in a worse way. In a worse way. I just want to be clear. Right, the world was changed in a worse way. It didn't get better. It got worse as a result of what happened. Yeah, I just want to be clear about that.
This morning, and what I actually started my 8 o'clock show with yesterday is, has the world changed back?
It has. And I look at it as kind of like Reconstruction. You know, all the progress that we made as Black people after Reconstruction, which was pulled back after a while. And I think what we're seeing right now is a pullback. After George Floyd.
No, what we're seeing is the mistakes being corrected, right? We're seeing a pullback from the woke nonsense that happened as a result, right? We're seeing a restoration of common sense. We're seeing these woke mayors get voted out of office. We're seeing these woke DAs get voted out of office. That's what we're seeing, right? And that is good for the country, right? Rolling back all those things that happened as a result of George Floyd is good. That's actual real progress. The things that were put in place as a result of George Floyd, that was not progress. That was regression, right? We regressed as a society after George Floyd, and we're now starting to recover from that, right? That's what's really happening.
Murder, all the companies, all the corporations decided that we needed to do something to address systemic racism in this country, and now we're seeing this systemic pullback of all of that. So we're kind of regressing as a country because of as a result of George Floyd.
And part of that regression is the backlash against that groundswell, that movement in the first place. You see things like Ben Shapiro offering a petition, putting out a petition to get their children pardoned from his federal conviction. And, it speaks to the, I guess, insidious nature of how people feel when they see Black people fighting for justice, trying to get justice, and how deeply it can go to kind of, to your point, setting us back, kind of reversing things that we all took for, not maybe for granted, as this is how we should behave, this is how we should occupy the space as a society.
I was looking in preparation to this conversation of some things that have changed that are not going to be reversed, right? We've seen the reversal of some of the consent decrees. We've seen the reversal of some of the commitments on DEI. Black Lives Matter painted down the middle of the street in Washington and New York and other cities. Those are gone. The only thing, as cynical as it sounds, that I've found that has changed and quite permanently is Aunt Your Mom and Uncle Ben off products, and the changing of names and things as superficial for many, not all, as that. And so what is the plan? Is there still the infrastructure that we saw 5 years ago socially to try to push forward some of those changes? Does that still exist?
I think there's definitely people who are still fighting the good fight, and I think that people are still galvanized by these things because we haven't really stopped seeing big cases where police misconduct has become has been an issue. And so I don't think that people will necessarily stop that fight. But it is, I think, disheartening to a lot of people to see, you need that motivation to be able to get out there and to protest and to fight these things. And when you see these reversals, it is going to be disheartening for a lot of people.
Yeah, so you see now you're that. AKA, the grip is up, right? BLM is dead, right, for the most part. Okay, that movement destroyed itself because they raised a whole bunch of money. And none of the money actually went to the people it was supposed to go to, right? You had a bunch of Black lesbians, communists, they got rich, right? And then they decided that they're the organization, the movement is done, right? It's done. And you can see corporate America, they pull back on it because DI was never profitable, right? The social justice was not profitable, right? They were burning money on fire, right? I mean, they made some money in the beginning, okay, when it was, going strong, but once people kind of realized, hey, this is a scam, right? A lot of people pull back, right? A lot of people just kind of made their money and kept it moving, okay? And the people that were supposed to get the money, the people who were hurt, the businesses that were hurt, okay, the Black folks, the Black community that were supposed to get money, they didn't see a dime of it. They didn't see a dime of it. They enriched themselves, right? They got a lot richer, okay? That's what happened. So again, CNN should be ashamed of themselves, okay, spending Memorial Day weekend basically trying to remember George Floyd instead of remembering our fallen heroes, fallen members of the military, which is what this weekend should be reserved for. But clearly CNN...
They want to start some race bait. That's race baiting shit. That's race baiting. That's some race bait. Race bait.
They're getting backlash for basically trying to celebrate George Floyd.
Race bait.
Big weekend about George Floyd instead of what it's supposed to be about. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll support and share a Black and Southern perspective. All right.